Hi, this is Mr. Max with Sankofa Mathematics. So today I am going to do a two-part video on linear programming. So this work, you can find this work in the grade 10, 11 y equals mx plus c book, and you can see the questions I'm doing are taken from pages 330 right up to page 338. Essentially, those are those try nows there. So I'm going to do 4 questions today, and then I'm going to upload the other 4 tomorrow. So the first one, if you go to your book, you'll see that it's a question about the company as a vehicle parking area. The second one, if you see, I'll continue. So just so you can be there with your book, Nina goes to the shop. All right. So I'm going to do 4 questions as far as that is concerned. Right. So perhaps just to reiterate something very important, the grade 11s, please remember your exam is starting already in if you look at your exam, you're starting already in September. Okay, things like oral communication, English, 12 to 30th of September. So by the middle of September, you should already be in exam mode. So what is important is you're writing mathematics. As you can see there, you're writing mathematics on the 24th. So you start with the 3-hour paper. That is in the morning from 8 o'clock. Okay, and you start from 8 o'clock. So that means you go up to 11. So this paper is from 8 a.m. all the way up to 11 a.m. And then you do the one in the afternoon, which is paper 1. This one is 80 marks. All right. This one is 80 marks and it's 2 hours long. And this one here is 120 marks. So your exam timetable is out, grade 11s. So make sure that you familiarize yourselves with that. Prepare yourself so that you can finish most of the topics. Okay, let's go to our problem. So before I look at linear programming per se, I just want to reiterate a few things that you should know. When a question says at most, then it means you should think of inequality as less than or equal to 8. Okay, because 8 is the maximum amount of money that the person can have if it was money, or 8 is the maximum, whatever that a person can have. At least, it means if I say give me at least $8, that means you can give me more. So $8 would be like, less than that. So can give me more than $8. So I'll settle for 8 or more. A minimum is the same concept, means you can get more, greater than or equal to. A maximum means 8 is your final answer. Anything less than that will be accepted, but not more than 8. Not less than 8 means should be more than 8 or equal to. Not more than 8 should be less than 8 or equal to. But when the question simply says more than 8, means it must be bigger than 8. Now this is a restriction. We say here, this type of inequality, x is greater than 8. This is a restricted inequality because you are not going to consider 8. Okay, the same applies with less than 8. All right, so it's a restriction there. Those are the type of inequalities you should think of. Right, also, because I'm doing word problems, there are a little bit of stages that you always need to consider. When you get the information, you should interpret the information and you should then write inequalities. And you graph those inequalities by straight lines, which means if you have the inequality, say you have an equality x is greater than 4, okay? So let's say you are going to think of the line x equals to 4, but here's the thing now about the line x equals to 4. So perhaps if I can do that, just to bring this particular thing down, okay? So if I have something like that, and perhaps something like that. So an inequality of x is, because it's not it's restricted, right? So the 4 is not included. So typically, let's say my 4 is there. So what you're going to draw then is going to be a line, but the line that you're going to draw will be a broken line, okay? So it's going to be a broken line that you're going to draw, something like that. Okay, now, what about the shading though? Because it says things greater than 4. So greater than 4 will mean 5, 6 on the right hand side. So then you shade the parts that you are going to reject, which means you shade the parts that doesn't make the inequality through. So you are going to be shading essentially something like that, which is x is less than, okay, because what you're looking for is greater than 4. So straight lines, and then you have maximum and minimum points. So we're going to do this more. You will see in the questions towards the end, they always ask us to find that. Then there is something that I perhaps want to reiterate to you. If you have inequalities of this nature, let's say you have y is less than 2x plus c. This type of inequality. Let's say our c is a number like 6. Okay, right. If you were to graph that particular inequality, okay, so let's say my 6 is here, all right, my gradient is 2, so this particular line is going to be a line that goes in this direction. Just an example, right? And that is y over there. So because you have less than, so the unwanted region, because the wanted region is less than, so it must be below the line. So the unwanted region will be above the line. Okay, so that is basically what you're going to look at. So when you have inequalities of the nature less than or equal to, so you are looking for the part that is making the inequality through is below that line. Okay, so you are going to shade what is opposite that. Okay, so this is the true part, and this part here is what you reject. That is the part that you shade, for example. The same can also be said about, if I have to take this off, if you have an inequality of this nature. So you have an inequality, let's say y is greater than, let's say, even 2x plus 3, or inequality is greater than or equal to. So if, again, you have to draw that, and that is just, so let's suppose I have got, well, it's still a dotted line, so let's just get that here, border. So I have got a line here, I've got here a line, so this is the x-axis, that is the y-axis, 3 is here, suppose my gradient is there. So obviously if I draw this line, it's going to be a line that goes in this direction, more or less. Okay, so because the inequality says greater than, okay, so greater than, so we are going to then look at what is above the line. So the part that is true is the part that is above the line. So what you're going to reject, okay, what you're going to reject is you shade the opposite. In this case, you will be shading what is below the line. So when you shade this type of question, you are going to shade this part, because you are looking at an inequality that says greater or equal to. So that means above the line is the correct stuff, so you reject, and by shading the opposite, because we shade the unwanted region. Then another thing worth mentioning, and I'm going to talk briefly about this, because I know that sometimes your books are saying you are supposed to make y the subject of the formula, and I'm particularly talking about if you have, say, 6x plus 4y, let's say it's greater than 5. So sometimes they say you make y the subject of the formula, but in this case you don't really need to do that. If you were to draw such a line, okay, let me just say I make that 15. I'm just going to change this so that the story makes a little bit sense. Okay, and let's suppose this is a 5x, and let's suppose that's 3y, and you were supposed to draw something like that. Okay, now if I bring in my coordinate system, for example, all right, just draw that there. So what you're going to do with this type, you don't need to make y the substitute formula. So you're going to say if x equals to 0, for example, so that's 5 times 0 plus 3y greater than. So what you do is when you want to draw the line, so you're going to make this in equations, okay? So I'm going to say equals to 15. Well, this is going to give you 3y equals to 15. Eventually, y will be equal to 5. So the point here is 0, 5. And the point 0, 5 can actually be plotted. And then in the same vein, you can say if y is equal to 0, that means you plug here for 0. So that means 5x plus 3 times 0. It's an equation now, because remember, so we're going to say equals to 15. So that gives you 5x equals to 15. And then x will be 15 divided by 5. So x will be 3. So the point is going to be 3, 0. Now, because you said y is 0. So 3, 0, perhaps the point is here. Now, once you have that, you then simply draw the line. Okay, you just draw the line. So that means you're going to draw the line like something like so. Okay, so it's not a little bit out, but that's how the line will be. Okay, and in this particular case, my line is, as you can see, perhaps I should just remove it, because the inequality is restricted, which means the line should be a dotted line. Okay, all right. So the line that I'm going to draw should be a dotted line. So it should be a dotted line, broken line like that, because there is no or equal to. Now, how do you shade this? So the shading then appears. We say 5x plus 3y greater. Greater means the truth is above. So we then shade what is below. Below is the part that we are going to reject, and the truth is above the line. So that is how that particular one will be done. Okay, when you have these type of questions, that is what you should remember. So maybe also to reiterate another thing, if you have inequalities where the or equal to is included, and the line that you're going to draw, these will be solid lines. Okay, if you draw the lines, you have some inequality like this, it is a solid line. If the inequalities doesn't have the or equal to, then your line will be broken. Okay, it means there's a restriction, something like that. Okay. All right, so let us get to it. And the very first question I have here, it says that a company, so you can check in your textbook, has a vehicle parking area of 1,200 square meters with space X for cars. So X is for the cars and Y represent the trucks. Right, so all of this is their vehicles, okay? So the 1,200, that is the total parking area that is there. So that means 20 square meters for the car, so that's 20x plus 100 square meters for the trucks should be less than or equal to 1,200. Okay, so once you're here, now you're just supposed to divide by 20. And if you divide by 20, you eventually get x plus 5y should be less than or equal to. So 20 goes in there, will give you 60. In fact, this is what you were supposed to do, and the working is from that part. So there's a little problem with this question. I would suggest that you scratch this if you have it in your book and write there at most. Okay, because otherwise it won't work. So it must be at most 40 vehicles. Now, remember when I was giving you the hint for what you're supposed to remember, at most is less than, okay? At most is less than or equal to. So what this question is saying, there must be space for at least, but now we said you must say at most, so that means it must be less than or equal to 40 vehicles. What are the vehicles? It's X, that is the cars, and Y, that is the trucks. That is one inequality. Okay, so just correct that one in your book. The second one says at least 2 trucks. So again, the truck is represented by Y, and it says at least it can be more than, so it's greater than or equal to 2. So these are my 2 inequalities that I'm supposed to write down. Now, when you get to part C, all right, it wants us to draw the inequalities. So, but before I draw the inequalities, and this is what I suggest you do, because as you can see, you have got 3 inequalities in this question that you are going to draw on your graph. So that is the inequality that I have to consider. That is the other inequality, and that's the other inequality. All right. So when I do that as lines, so before I look at that, so if I have to say, if I must draw the lines, the Roman 2 is quite straightforward. I'll draw the line x, not x, but rather y. So I'll draw the line y equals to 2, okay? And the other one, I'm going to draw x plus y equals to 40. And I'll show you exactly what to do, and x plus 5y. And the other one will be x plus 5y is equal to 60. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. So these are my lines. Okay, now when I'm going to plot these, this line y equals to 2 is a very straightforward line. It's a line that is parallel to the x-axis. But when you have something like x plus y equals to 40, you can say let x, if x is 0, okay, if x equals to 0, what is the value of y going to be? Well, y will be 40. All right, so that means you're looking at a point 0, 40, which you are going to plot now. Okay, that is what you do there. So it's the dual intercept method. So then you do the same. You say if y then is equal to 0, then you realize that x will equal to 40. That means this is going to be x is 40 and y is 0. And these are the points that you can plot. And it should not be very difficult to plot these points on the grid. Okay, so if my grid, for example, looks like that, I'll have a 40 somewhere here. I have a 40 somewhere here. Okay, and then I'll simply take my ruler, and it has to be a solid line, and you just join. Okay, so that line is unfortunately solid. You just join. So let's just remove that line. We have a solid line. So you just joined it, then you have that line there. Okay, and another thing, when it comes to that line, it says the inequality says x plus y should be less than or equal to 40, because it says less than or equal to 40. So the wanted region is below. So when you are starting to shade, you are going to shade everything that is above that. That is what you're going to be shading, for example. Okay, when we are looking at that. Then the second one that we are looking at is y equals to 2. Okay, so the equation y equals to 2 is not a problem, because you have y equals to 2. This was y is greater than or equal to 2. So you're going to draw, so let's suppose 2, let's say it's somewhere here. Okay, so what you're going to draw is going to be a straight line. That line is going to be a line that goes all the way, something like this. Okay, and because it says greater than, so the unwanted region, you guessed it, is below. The unwanted region will be below, which is that part that you will be shading. And the other inequality that we also have is the one x plus 5y, this one here, equals to 60. Let me just write the equation. So you have x plus 5y equals to 60. But remember, the inequality was x plus 5y is less than or equal to 60. Okay, so the inequality is x plus 5y is less than or equal to 60. So you're going to draw that line. So we already determined if I want to draw that line, I will again say if x equals to 0, that means 0 plus 5y equals to 60, then what will y be? So that gives you that y will be 60 divided by 5, which is 12, which means 0, 12. So somewhere I have my 12, perhaps somewhere here. Okay, That's the point, 0, 12. And then also, if y is then 0, the dual intercept method. So you put if y is 0, so that means x plus 5 times 0 equals to 60. That simply means x is equal to 60. So that is 60, 0, which is this particular point right there. Okay. Now that you have those particular points, okay, you are going to then draw the line. And again, it's a solid line. And you're going to join it, for example, like so. Okay, right. So this is just a sketch. I'm going to do the graph now. So it says again, less than. So what we're looking for is below the line. So the stuff that we must shade must be above. So we are going to be shading the stuff above there. All right. So then you see the region we are going to focus on is going to be that region there. Okay, I hope you remember the steps because I am going to go over to that graph there. So if I have a graph, so my first question, it says that we are supposed to, so I hope you have graph paper. Okay, so we are going to use 2 centimeters, and 2 centimeters should represent um, 10 units, which means if I am to go here, so that is going to be 10 here, for example, and it should be in both axes now. So that's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. Okay, also 10, remember that's 0, so that's 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. All right, so this is X and this is Y. Okay, all right, so what you also can do is you can then draw the line. Okay, and you can draw the line there just to show those things. Okay, right. So when you are here now, again, we can actually now, I hope you still remember, 2 is very easy to find. So we are then looking at y, let's make that a bit red. So the line y equals to 2, so line somewhere here below, y equals to, okay, this is still an arrow. I don't want it to be an arrow, so I want it to be a straight line. And okay, so let's have it the same color. So y equals to 2 will be a line somewhere here. It's a little bit thicker. Okay. All right, let me just bring it nicely down. Something like that. And again, when you start shading, you are going to be shading below whatever is below there because I spoke about that before. All right. And the next line that you are going to draw, remember it was the one that had my points 40 there, and the other one is 40 here. Okay, and then I'm going to draw my line from that 40 right through the other one there. And if you remember, our shading was supposed to be above that line there. So please shade the whole thing, okay? Shade the whole thing. So don't just be lazy and do funny shading. Shade the whole thing, like so. Okay. All right. So that's what you shaded for that part. Okay. You can turn your pencil nicely and shade. The next one is the line, if you can remember from my previous work there, all right? And if I can just scroll back, because I had that sketch there. So it is this one, x plus 5y is less than or equal to 60. So at a point 12, 0, 12 and 40 or 60. Okay, I'm referring to these particular points here. And that is the line that I am going to draw now. Okay, so let's go back to my graph. So if I bring in my point that I was looking for, this one is somewhere at 12. So 12 will be right about here. Obviously, you will be zooming in. And the other point was all the way at, I believe, 60, 0, which was this point here, right? So again, you take your ruler and you join these particular points. And the part that I was supposed to shade was what was below, above that line. Okay, so I was supposed to shade what was above that line. So my shading definitely included that part. So I'm just going to get that nicely done. Even that part should have been shaded. Right, so once you're here, your graph work is now done, which means you can now start focusing on the D part of the question. Okay, right, so your labeling should be correct. In fact, talking about label, so what is it that we're looking at? We're looking at cars versus trucks here. So I would suggest that you do the same. You write below at the cars here, and on this axis, on the y-axis, you can write your trucks. Okay, but you can write it nicely somewhere there. Okay, so that does it. Now let's go to the D part of the question. And the D part of the question says, the company charges $50 for each car. Okay. It charges $50 for each car and $100 for each truck. So that car represented by the letter X. So I can then say, okay, so it's 50X and 100Y. So that's what I'm going to work with. So we are now going to look for the number of cars and the number of trucks which give the company the greatest possible income. So you go to your graph. And when you go to your graph now, if I have to just maybe make it a bit bigger, and the parts of the graph that I'm interested in would be, because you are not going to pick all the points, not necessarily, okay? So you are going to be picking the ones at the vertices. For example, I'm going to pick different points, okay? So I'm going to pick, let's say, this point here, and that's the point 0,12. And I'm going to pick, this one is not necessary, but I'm going to write it though. That is the point, it's not necessary. That is the point 0,2, because it won't make really anything in that 50x plus 100y, okay? And another point you're going to pick is this point right about there, and this one right about there. Okay, so once you look at my points there, I got 38,2, and the other point is 35. This is 35,5. Okay, 35,5. So these are the 4 points that I'm going to use. Right, no need to pick points here because they will be, you look at the ones at the vertices. So these are the points that you're going to substitute in and see. So if I use the point 0,12, so that's going to be 50 times 0 plus 100 times 12. If you punch this in, you get 1,200. If you use the point 38,2, okay, that's the point right here. That is 50 times 38 plus 100 times 2. Well, you can play around with that. You'll get something like $2,100. If you pick the point 35,5 though, and you say 50 times 35 plus 100 times 5, you punch that in, you should get 2,250. And you can see, I'm not even going to bother with the point 0,2, but if you wanted me to do that, it's going to be 50 times 0 plus 100 times 2. Well, you can see that's just a mere 200. So I'm looking at 2,250, which means the points that I'm going to consider is when X is 35, there are 35 cars and 5 trucks. Okay, so they are asking for me, or they're asking what is the maximum. Let's just go back to our question. So they say calculate the greatest possible income, and I was saying it's the point 35,5, and I'm getting this from the graph, and substituting in 50 times 35 plus 100 times 5. Well, the greatest possible income that I see was $2,250. Okay, so let's quickly look at question 2. So graph work, quite important. All right. Question 2. Nina goes to a shop to buy loaves of bread and cakes. One loaf of bread costs $6, and one cake costs $8 She buys X loaves and Y cakes, X loaves of bread and Y cakes. She must not spend more than 120. So what do we know? The bread is 6x because x goes for the bread and obviously y goes for the cake. And how much does a cake cost? It's 8y, and she has only 120 that she must spend. So you divide that by 2. Half of 6 is 3x, half of 8 is 4y, and half of that is 60. So that is what we are supposed to show. Then they are saying the number, this one is actually straightforward, the number of loaves, that is x, must be greater than or equal to the number of cakes. Okay, so that takes care of that one. That's the inequality. Then now we are going to have to draw this inequality again. So we have got 2 inequalities only here to play around with. Okay, there is nothing to be afraid. So we are going to have to draw the inequality. The inequality we'll be drawing is 3x plus 4y is less than or equal to 60, and x is greater than or equal to y. Just a very important point. Write this inequality, this one here, in terms of y. Okay, so that means you will be saying y is less than or equal to x. Okay, from that side, it's the same thing. So it's very important that you do that. Right, so the 2 lines, I just want to bring that other one down, is 3x plus 4y. So it is 3x plus 4y less than or equal to 60, and y less than or equal to x. Good. So from here, I already gave you sort of a layout how it should look like. So we're going to go to the graph, and then we're going to obviously graph it nicely. My concern is how will you draw these lines? So you're going to make this equation, say 3x plus 4y equals to 60. So you're going to say if x is 0, okay, then 4y equals to 60. That means y will be 60 divided by 4, which is 15. So if x is 0, you have that point. If, in the same vein, y is 0, then you have 3x is equal to 60, and then you have x equals to 60 divided by 3, so x will be then 20. So you have another point which will be 20, 0. So if I have to plot 20, 0 is this point here, and 0, 15, so let's say my 15 is maybe somewhere around there. Okay, solid line. So again, you'll be drawing your line, and you will be joining it like that. And what does the inequality say? It says less than, so less than is below, so you're going to be shading whatever is above. Okay, so that is what we're going to be shading, for example, when you do that. Then the other one that we are going to do is y equals to x. So the line y equals to x is not that difficult. Okay, whatever x is, y will be the same. If x is 20, y should be 20. Okay, so you can then, x is 0, y is 0, so then just take your ruler and join those points. All right, so when you do something like that, that's the line y equals to x. So the reason I said you must change it around, because now it says y is less than. So what is truth is below, so you are supposed to shade what is above the line. So our shading will mean we will be shading all of that stuff above the line. And once we are done, they ask us to write R there in the required region. So that's what we're going to do in our question that deals with graph. So let's just go then to question 2 for our graph. And question 2, so I'm just going to make this a bit smaller so that it can fit 75%. Okay, so they say our axis should be 1 centimeter represent 1 unit, so 0 to 20 on each axis. And what I like to do, I'm not going to start with 1, I'm just going to say 2, 4, because I know that like that is 1 and 0 is here. 4, 6, 8, 10. Okay, so I have 12, I have 14, well 16 will be all the way up there. And the same applies here, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. All right, all the way up there. Yes, I'm going so again, so that is going to be the y-axis, the x-axis, and this one here will be the y-axis. As I said, this here is the y and that one is the x. So once you label on this axis, you're going to have well, the way you have to write cakes here, and then here you will be writing maybe loaves of bread. Okay, so loaves of bread. In fact, you'll be doing under, I just don't have space. Okay, and there you go. So I hope you still remember what our inequalities were. Our inequality from the previous one that I did, 15 and 20. Okay, so I'm going to look at where 15 is. So 15 is all the way here. All right, and the other one was the 20. Let's go back, see. It was all the way up to 20, although they wanted, okay, so I must actually continue with my numbering. So 16, so that is going to be 18, that is going to be 20. All right, so let me take that away, just extend that a little bit more, all the way up to 20. So which means this particular point here and that point up there. And I'm going to draw my line from there right across up to there. Okay, and remember with our shading, we said we are supposed to shade what is above the line, because the truth was what is below. And you will be shading, of course, in the exam. Do the correct shading. Don't be lazy now. Okay, and then you shade all of that. Don't just be lazy with that. Again, it's a solid line, remember. And the other one was we had to draw the line y equals to x. Again, I said if that is 20, the other one is 20, so I'm going to pick 16, and that one also be 16. So this is going to be points that are exactly on it. So if I start from the origin right up to there, that should connect. And I hope you still remember our shading, because our inequality was y. If I remember well, let's quickly go back. What is our inequality? It was y is less than or equal to x. So y is less than or equal to x, which means below is the truth. So this is the part we reject. So this is the part you will be shading. So let's just shade that part nicely. So, well, it's a little bit in there, so I'm going to correct it. Okay, so that it doesn't spill over. Okay, that happened. Let's just have a correct, nice shading again. So again, as I said, my shading should be nicely on top of the line. All right, there we go. And of course, they wanted us to write R in that region. Now, I can actually blow this up a bit, and then you will have a clear idea how it should look. Then there's a D part to the question, and the D part says the total number of loaves of bread and cake is x plus y. So we have to find the largest possible value of x plus y. So Again, when you do this question, so you are going to go back to your graph, and there is no need to plot all the points. So you just look at the point the highest up there. And for me, there are 2 points. I have the point 9,8, which is a point somewhere there. That's the highest one. Another one I will use is this 20,0. There's no need to use another one on the left side here. No? So anything obviously else. So there's no need to look at these other points. So there's no need for you to look at all of them. Look at the vertices, the ones close to the vertices. So this point and the 20,0, the furthest and the highest up, this is where your solutions would be. So I have 9,8 that I will consider, and I have got 20,0 that I'm going to consider. Anything else is just not going to cut it. Okay, so let's test those points and then we see what our solution will be. So if we take the point 9,8, so you're going to have 9 plus 8. Well, that's going to give you 17. And let's test the other one. It's 20,0. So that is 20 plus 0. You get 20. And from there, it's very straightforward to say that therefore 20 loaves of bread, okay, will give you the largest possible value. All right, so test only those 2 points. No need to go and test everything in there. All right, one more question. It says Beatrice wants to plant X orange trees and Y lemon trees. He wants at least 3 orange trees and at least 2 at least. Okay, at least. I hope you still remember that one. The inequality. Something when you say at least, it can be more than that or equal to. So at least, so X is for the orange and Y is for the lemon. So X should be greater than or equal to 3. Y should be greater than or equal to 2. Those are the 2 inequalities there. Then there is space on this land for no more than 9 trees. So that means X plus Y should less than or equal to 9. Okay, that's another inequality. Then oranges, $60. Oranges 60. X. Lemon 140. Y. And he has got 840. Okay, so what you can do is if you divide by 20, you are going to end up getting 3x plus 7y is less than or equal to 42. Okay, this is what they say you should be able to show. All right, so I have now my 3 inequalities, and then I'm going to draw those inequalities on my graph. So before I draw the inequalities, let me write them as lines. Okay, so this, when I write this as lines, these 2 should be straightforward. This is supposed to be x equals to 3. This is y equals to 2. This one becomes x plus y equals to 9. Okay. Again, this one you will have the point 9,0 and you will have the point 0,9. That is, if you make x 0 and you make y 0, this is what you're going to get. So you can plot that, not a problem. The other one is this one here. So as an equation, it becomes 3x plus 7y is equal to 0. If x equals to 0, that means you have 7y. This is supposed to be 42 on the side. So let's just get that in there. So it's 42. So 7y equals to 42. You know, the 3x, 3 times 0. So that gives you the value of y. So y will be 42 divided by 7, which is 6. So the point is 0,6 that you should be plotting. And subsequently, if you make in that same equation, if y is 0, then you'll be left with 3x is equal to 42, and then x will be 42 divided by 3. Okay, and I hope you know that that answer therefore is 14. So that will be the point 14, 0. So these are the points that you're going to be plotting, and then you're going to be drawing the graph. Okay, so 14, 0. Say 14 is somewhere here, and the other one will be 0, 6. So maybe all the way halfway here, 0, 6. That will be the point there, and it's dotted lines, so I mean straight lines. So that's what you're going to do. And the inequality was less than, so you are going to effectively shade whatever is above the line. Okay, so that is the part that we'll be shading as far as that one is concerned. And then the other ones are not complicated to do. There was the one of 9, x plus y is 9. So again, if you have your 9, let's say 9 is there, and let's suppose 9 is here. So you are going to be drawing that line right up to there. And again, what we need to shade, it says the inequality is saying x plus y is less than, so we shade above the line, above that line that we just drew. So that means you'll be shading above this particular line that we just drew. And so this part here, all right, and that is what you'll be shading. And then there are two more inequalities, which is equations. X equals to 3, y equals to 2. Okay, so those ones were straightforward. X greater than or equal to 3 and y greater than or equal to 2. If I recall well, let's just go back and see. Yes. Okay, back from that. So you can draw the line. So let's say 3 is here, and the line x equals to 3 will be somewhere like that. Things that are greater than, so you're going to shade the less than, which is the outside here, as far as that is concerned. And another one is y is, let's say 2 is here, and so the line is going to be a horizontal line parallel to the x-axis and greater than 2, so you will be shading, for example, what is below that line. So effectively, that is going to be the region that we are going to look for. And when you look at E, and if you look at E, after we do there, after we do our graph now, we're going to be looking at points, at specific points, and not all the points. All right. So please don't pick all the points. So it's going to be something that I will show you how you can do this one. So let's first look at the graph. If look at question 3. So I'm just going to reduce this. So they said we are supposed to draw all the way up to 15. So 1 centimeter, 1 unit. So that is 2 here, because 1 is there. That's 0, 4, 6. You can go 1, 2, 3, 4 if you want to. 8, 10. So I've got 12. I've got 14. And 15 will be right there. And then they say on the y-axis, that one just goes to 12. Again, same thing. 1 centimeter, 1 unit, so it's 2, 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, all the way up to there. Okay? You can actually decide, let me go out 14, 16. I'll go out so far. Right, just to get my lines in correctly there. And the y-axis there. So that's the y-axis and that's the x-axis. And we were told that the x-axis is for your orange trees. So you're going to go ahead and you're going to write that in here. And the other one is your lemon trees. So again, We must find a way to squeeze it in right here. Lemon trees. I'm just going to write lemon like that. Right. I hope you still recall. We had 9,9, the ones that one that I was drawing. So I was at 9 here and 9 here. Okay. I have to go back. Still hope you remember. Okay. So draw that line. Shade above. Should be pretty much this whole region that you must shade. And the other one was the line x equals to 3. And we were supposed to shade, if you recall, the stuff here on this side from my previous work. You can always refer back. And the other one was, so that was 3. And the other one was you're supposed to draw the line y equals to 2. That line is not problematic to draw, so it's just going to go something like that. And if you recall well, we are shading what is below. So we'll be shading below. That means you shade below like so. There was one inequality that we still had to draw, 14 and 6. So I'll go back. I have 6 here and 14 all the way up to there. All right, so let's draw that one in 6 and all the way up to 14. And we shade above, if you recall well, shading above. Okay, so that is how you shade. The unwanted region should be clear. Good. I'm just going to blow this up so that you can understand where I'm going with this next question. Now, the next question, it says, that's the part that I really want to explain. Calculate the smallest cost if Petrus buys a total of 9 trees. Now, because he buys a total of 9 trees, what was the cost? Originally, the cost was 60x plus 140y. You can't use the one that's simplified. That is the original cost. Where do we get that? Let's go all the way. It was up here. Okay, that was the original cost. 60 for orange 3, 140 for lemon 3. Now, we need to go find points that add up to 9. That means we can go back to our graph. Now, when we go back to our graph, I am only going to consider, I'm not going to do all the points. I'm going to consider only 2 points. One of the points I'm going to consider is, because here's the thing, it's supposed to be x plus y should be 9. Okay, 9, total should be 9 trees. So my lemon and my orange, they should give me 9. So I'm going to look for, on that line, this line is this particular one that goes from here. So the point should be on this line. Né? It should be on this line. So the points I'm going to consider is going to be this point here. I'm going to consider that point. Okay? And I'm going to consider maybe another one here. Close towards the edge. I'm not going to consider all of them. Okay? The lowest cost. So if I look at the point that I have here, this is the point 6,3. And if I can look at the other point here, this point here that I have here, so that's the point 7,2. I have a point 7,2. If you add those two coordinates, you get 9. So I'm not even going to look at others like these are the only ones that it's on that line. It should be on that line. and that's the only ones that are going to give you that condition. Okay, there's another one here, a 5, but you can see it's not clearly at the 4 there, so I'm going to use that. So let us see if we go back to our cost. So the points is 6,3 and 7,2. These are the points that I'm going to consider. So the points I'm going to work with, my points is 6,3 and 7,2. Okay, that is the value of x, y, value of x, y. So we're going to substitute them in there and see what do we get. So when we do 6 and 3, well, you're going to end up with 780. Again, if we take 60 plus 140, let's see if we substitute the points 7,2, x is 7, and that's 2, well, you're going to get 700. So we have then our solution. We say, therefore, the lowest cost for 9 trees is $700 million. Okay, well, that takes care of that particular question. Right, so I'm going to continue tomorrow, and I'm going to look at the other questions. Please refer back to this video and look at your question paper or your textbook, and then you see exactly what I have done there. So there are 5 more questions that I'm going to do. Okay, this 8 questions that I've prepared here, and these questions are all taken from your textbook. Okay, so look at page 330 up until page 338. Okay, then there's one that is said your advanced level, so I'm going to do it also for you tomorrow and then upload it for you. Good.